But also, it's not like, I've never really bought this. There's not enough sexual education in schools. There was a huge primary campaign run on that throughout the 90s and in the early 2000s, and it didn't do anything. Nothing. And here's the thing, convincing me that the average 13 to 15-year-old doesn't know anything about sex and modernity is fucking insane.
You're going to learn. You're going to learn. You can Google things now. With sex education and everything, it's like you're not going to really understand a lot of it until you experience it or make the mistakes, and you won't even hear it anyway. A lot of it, too, like trauma. Trauma has a lot to do with whether or not you're escaping in sex, and that's at any age. So, you can tell someone all day long, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, but they're gonna.
I think trauma's a cope. I think that. Here's what I think. I think that a lot of women utilize the trauma excuse for their promiscuous past when they really just wanted to get dicked down by a stud. And what they do is they cope about it. And they're like, no, see, the reason that I went down and got dicked down by so many studs is because my trauma that happened when I was younger, this bad thing happened to me. And that's what made it so that all these handsome men just had to fuck me, right? And
maybe the younger ones, the older ones are owning it.
So I hear that and I think to myself, maybe not. Maybe it's not the fact that you were traumatized, but the fact that you just wanted to have sex with a lot of good-looking guys.
I mean that, absolutely.
So, that can be healing. That can be healing in ways.
Yeah.
I think so that, like, if a guy said, like, I just had a really bad breakup and she really broke my heart, and, I'm back on the streets, the boys will be like, yeah, get back on the streets, but, like, when women do that, like you said, it's kind of... were you really hurt? Like this? Is that really a trauma response, or are you just being wild?
It's coping.
It is,
it's coping. What it is
some of it's coping.
They're doing this. They're going, look, my dating chances drastically go down because I've slept with and now the numbers are fucking astronomical, like 50, 60, 70 guys, right? I've slept with that many guys. When people realize that
60 to 70 chicks. Mm-hmm, I mean, dudes.
Boy, you got me, Brian. So
clip it and shift.
That's what they'll say, right?
Yeah.
And so if they do, right, their chances for having the kind of more high status man, especially in their 30s, is going to greatly decrease in comparison to women who haven't. So if that's the case, they have every reason to make an excuse to cope about it, to be like, no, it's not my fault. It was some trauma that I had that got treated, this type of thing.
Yes and no. It's if you're still engaging in that behavior. So if there's a quality man who's healed and he's ready for marriage and he's dating a woman who obviously you can tell if someone still doesn't love themselves and they're acting out and they're seeking love and validation from other men, then sure. But
I don't think men get healed. I think they get. I think they get tired.
You can do it.
Yeah, I think they get tired.
We do NLP and hypnotherapy with my guys.
Hypnotherapy's bullshit.
You don't think sex?
There's a little bit. All it is hypnotherapy.
Bullshit.
All it is that you go in and you can reframe some memories so that you're not as freaking loaded by them.
It's the least scientific form of especially any sort of hypnosis.
But it's kind of fun.
But the thing that's interesting about this is they don't. It's not that men are coping or get healed. They're not healed. They just get tired of it. So playing the field for men who can, right? It's fun for a little bit, and they just get sick of it. And it's not that they're healed from shit. They weren't traumatized, right? They're like, what are they traumatized from? Oh, I had sex with a bunch of beautiful women. Oh, my God, the trauma. Oh, the trauma.
No, well, that's not where trauma comes from.
Of course they're not traumatized.
That's not trauma.
Right? They're not traumatized by it at all. They're sick of it, right? And the same thing with women. They do get, in some ways, traumatized by women, but mostly it's just they're sick of women's bullshit, right?
Well, sure, but that's not trauma.
Well, what is trauma for them?
Trauma is when you're if you're getting actually abused, beaten, hurt. I've had clients that were for men actually dated narcissistic women, which is surprising. Not surprising for me, but a lot of people don't realize that men can be in abusive relationships.
Of course.
Right? They're psychologically abused, physically abused.
Yeah, and they can hold those scars over. They can go through terrible divorces.
But no, dating a bunch of women and all that. Yeah, but I'm talking, when I talk trauma, I mean that. I don't mean the superficial coping shit. I mean actual
but the amount of women who express that they've been traumatized, and then you find out what they've been traumatized by is just the same regular rigmarole shit that every human being has to go through. I'm like, that's not trauma.
Yeah.
That's cope.
Because right now, now with, you see like influencers right now. I have such a grip with this one. They take the word trauma, or they take the word narcissist, or they take the word and they overuse it to the point where when you are actually having that, or having trauma, or having abuse, it's like it's gotten so blown out of proportion that, you know, the people who actually do need help or do actually have it.
Well, actual narcissists are rare. And so what's happened is that
There's a scale.
every woman on planet Earth thinks she's a psychologist. I have no idea why, but they read something online about narcissistic tendencies and traits and don't realize how common the miscalculation between confidence and narcissism is.
Yep.
Oh, that was a confident man who was assertive and aggressive in his boundaries. I don't like that, so he's a fucking narcissist.
He's a
It's like, no,
narcissist.
that's not a narcissist.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's a very common female cope.
Yeah, I think that'll change when we have more females talking to other females about that one. Like, no,
That's
you
what I
can't
don't
say that,
understand.
Becky.
How would that be the case when, like, the whole field of psychology is completely inundated with women? It's like saturated with them, and they mostly treat women. Men
get
don't
more
usually
men
seek
to-
psychological help because
No,
they
you'll
have the
go in-
boys.
yeah.
They go out with the boys. They
Well, you'll
grab the
get
drinks,
coaches.
right? They do that stuff.
Yeah.
They're not grabbing many female coaches either. They're grabbing their buddies. They're grabbing their pals. They're grabbing their groups.
Maybe they might not tell you.
No, most men are not.
I've
I
never
mean,
heard
most
of
men
it.
by
Oh
the
yeah,
numbers.
there's a lot.
Just
There's,
like most men
I've
by
do
the numbers.
boot camps all over the world.
Sure,
and-
with
yeah.
men.
With men.
Right? What I'm saying is that they're not going to female psychologists. They're not even really going to
No,
male
but that's why I'm saying
psychologists.
I'm not a psychologist. They have that like nice little, I'm a coach. So for me, if they're coming to me, it feels a little bit less like, oh, I'm not going to someone because I'm messed up. I'm not going to a psychologist. Although I do encourage it. I think talk therapy doesn't help with certain things, but it's great to talk things out. But there's different modalities of like CBT or EMDR or, you know, whatever it is. So yeah.
I think most women seek out psychological assistance from psychologists so that they can learn various forms of manipulation in order to manipulate whoever it is they're trying to manipulate, and they want the assistance from somebody who's a professional at it.
Yeah, weaponizing. So it's weaponizing therapy talk, right? We have men that do that, but anyone who's traumatized, who's not really, or an a-hole or whatever, who's not willing to take a hard look at themselves.
But
they're
again,
going to go in there. They're
if I
going to
look
use
at
that.
the numbers, though, and I look at the numbers of women who seek psychologists versus men, it's overwhelmingly women.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelmingly women in the field. So
Sure.
can you always make the case, oh, the other sex also engages in that? It's like, yeah, but to the degree of it, it's not even close.
Well, yeah, unless they Google it. You can Google all day long and not have to go to someone and spend money and $300 a pop to go to a psychologist to learn the jargon. You could just Google it online. It's
true.
It's everywhere on Instagram. You know it.
Well, psychology is the study of the mind, right? I've
Yeah.
never even I don't consider it even scientific. I never have.
Mm-hmm.
It has scientific elements for data gathering and things like this, but
Sure.
it's not itself a science. That's why it's considered a soft science.
Soft science, yeah.
I would just
we're
consider
learning.
it not science.
They learn more and more. It's nice that it grows. I mean, I remember back in the day when I was in psychology courses, and we thought back then that you only use 10% of your brain, and I mean that's what we learned back then. They didn't know, and there's so much more. It's just a growing
that's because
thing.
what happens is a sociological study will come out that has no reputations to it, has not been replicated, but because it's the most modern study, everyone will reference it as though it's gospel. Within 2 years, the reputation comes out, but what? Everybody inside their mind, they already have this bad information, right?
Right? Yeah.
They
Oh,
already have the
exactly.
bad information.
I mean, look at.
I still hear people say we only use 10% of our brain.
Oh, you
I
do?
still hear people say that left-handed people are more creative. I still hear people say that people with blue
left-handed.
eyes are generally taller. I see people say
I'm
all
short.
sorts. I see
With
people.
blue eyes.
I see people say all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah.
Right? That has been refuted, repudiated, completely decimated for years and years and years. But
Yeah.
because it's allowed to permeate within the decade of reason that these
Yes.
people are in, they hear it, it sticks. They're not looking for reputations years later. That's the problem with psychology.
Yeah.
It's a complete building block
Well,
of lies.
Psychology, but that's the thing, is that psychology isn't that building block of lies. It's the fact that you can take a zoom out and look at the fact that that's a pattern. We talked about patterns earlier. Patterns do, I do agree, patterns actually repeat. It's what human behavior doesn't necessarily change. Our circumstances might, or the way things look might change, but there's a pattern to that. So over the years, every decade has some sort of bad information that gets, caught up with.
Yeah, but it's way worse in sociology and psychology. You're talking 60-70% of the studies suffer from the replication crisis. All science suffers from the replication crisis.
Right.
But the hard sciences, very low. When you go back
Like
to replicate,
chemistry.
Yeah, when you go back to replicate a chemistry experiment,
Sure.
really easy. You take this chemical, this chemical, this chemical, you put in the same conditions, right?
Yeah.
The human element is very confounding, especially when you're not
Yeah.
studying the direct biological.
Yeah.
So they go out to replicate the sociological studies like 70%. In Canada, it's worse. Canada, it was worse. It was like 80% plus. They couldn't replicate the studies if they got the same participants,
Yes.
the same scientists, and the same control conditions.
Yeah.
So it's like, why the fuck would I ever trust any science that's 80% wrong or 70% wrong or 60% wrong?
I don't know. I do that too because I remember people were talking about Freud for a long time, and that guy was
yeah.
fucking nuts. I hated it.
Yeah, but
studying
wait
that.
a second. He made psychotherapy, and he did a lot of hypnotherapy.
He did. We took a lot of that, and then
Yeah.
hopefully you grow. Hopefully you learn. The one thing that I like about it is like hopefully you can take a mistake and learn from it and grow from it and do better. But I mean, there's some cool elements. Take what you like, discard the rest. You know, and that's about it.
I think it goes back to control, because like what we were talking about with the body count thing, and even this, like, it's unpredictable. You can't quantify it. You can't hypnotize it. Like, we keep trying to put these calculable elements on dating and love, and like my mindset on it all is it's not. Like, it doesn't matter how many people you've had sex with. It doesn't matter. I won't say your trauma, but like we're trying to calculate the human experience, especially relationship wise, and it's incalculable. Like you don't wake up and you say, I'm gonna eat eggs and I'm gonna eat eggs every day for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna have a pizza and I'm gonna be bad if I have pizza. You know, like your genitals are not one-time use, because if that was the case, the first person you linked it with or had sex with, you would only be able to orgasm with them. You would only be able to procreate with them. Like, we have multi-use organs, but we try to make them single-use or monogamous, and that's cool if you find that, but I just feel like biologically speaking, we're not even biologically set up for
Yeah, but
monogamy.
if you can do a thing, it doesn't mean you should do a thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's very
and not only
circumstantial.
that, like I think that you would even agree that not real, like there's a lot of calculable risks that you intuitively know. Like you've heard this advice from your parents, for instance, right? Don't date someone who treats you bad. Something simple, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
you'd be looking for patterns for bad treatment, right? So there's like no way around pattern recognition, especially when it comes to dating and things like this, so that
Especially
you
for
can
women.
mitigate risk.
Yeah,
You
'cause
go,
we're told,
oh,
don't
you're
date the
treating
guy
me
who
bad.
broke.
Don't be with the person who treats you
Don't
bad,
date the
right?
Yeah, right.
That's calculating risk.
And it's incalculable.
Quick thing here. We have 2 champagne pops.
Jeez,
From Jungle.
I'm actually
Do you
sober.
Jungle donated
Yeah.
$1,000.
One of your guys? Okay.
Pop champagne.
'Cause sometimes I
Get another one, Brian.
He's
And
good.
Andrew was just a light jokey joke. They all good.
No, he's
Bubba
good.
Jake is keeping it classic. For the crew.
Jungle,
Yo, Jungle, thank you so
okay,
much, man.
it is okay. So Brian moderately questioned your integrity briefly, but I did explain to him that your integrity is not to be questioned.